Hello guys, today we're going to be reviewing the first 4 out of 12 redstone contraptions that every single redstoner needs to know. Without further ado, let's get off. So the first thing we're going to be looking at here is a one-tick generator. Now one-tick generators are super useful for sticky pistons in Java. As you can see, we have a sticky piston here, and if we give it a one-tick pulse, which this circuit right here does, it spits out its block. Now there's 2 ways to do this. You can either use a redstone dust going into a piston with a block on its face, and this has to be solid right here, and so the redstone passes through the block and gives this repeater some power, but then it also powers this piston, which moves the block out of the way, which means the redstone can no longer power it. So that makes a one-tick pulse, as you can see right here. See that super quick pulse from the repeater? Now, another super simple way, I know this might look big, so if you're intimidated, just use a observer right here. I have a lever on its face, so if you flick it, boom, it goes out, flick it again. Now these are super useful for doors, and also if you want to spit out blocks and be able to retract them as well. So it's like a sticky piston and a normal piston combined. So we have a door here. You think this is the door, but no, this is actually the door. Now if we were just to power these regularly with just a lever without that one-tick pulse, it would close perfectly fine, but if we try and open it, we can't get through these pistons. Now the next thing we have here is a double piston extender. Now these are going to be everywhere. You're going to need these for impressing friends and your doors and your base, whatever you want, you name it. We have 2 horizontal designs. This one is 1 wide. This one's much simpler though and less cost effective. And we got 2 vertical ones, one which runs on a button and one which runs on a one-tick pulse. How to build this, you can probably just pause the video right here and create this in your world. This is 4-tick, this is 2-tick, and this is just a redstone line. You have 2 sticky pistons and a normal block and a lever. Now if I flick this lever, they extend 2 blocks, and then when I flip it again, it brings it back. So as you can see here, super simple double piston extender. Now this one uses the spitting out block feature, like right here, of Java Minecraft, and if you press this button, boom, it spits it out as you can see, and then it also retracts it. Now this is pretty simple. You have 2 observers. This one is watching this one, which is watching this redstone dust. This is a solid block being powered by a button and 2 sticky pistons. Now we have a vertical design. Now this is very similar to this, but instead we have a repeater going into the first piston. Observer looking at it, you can see here, it is looking at this repeater right here, and it's powering this block. You have to have a block here. If you don't have anything here, it's not going to work. And so if we power this little button right here, you see this block goes up 2 blocks, and if we power it again, it'll go down 2 blocks. So bump and bump. So we also have, if you want to one-tick pulse it from an observer, you can do that. You just have to set this repeater here to 4 ticks, and it's the exact same thing. As you can see here, exactly the same. Now, why would you want to use these? Many reasons, as I talked about earlier, but for the simplest one is a fancy door like this. So let's say you have this little staircase right here, and you can make this not glass so you don't see the pistons, but you have a little door, you can walk through it, go around, whatever. But then all we have is a one-tick pulse going in, powering all these, and then powering this double piston extender, which we've seen over here. These are also, you can tile them, so you can put them all next to each other, as many as you want. And that's what we've done here to make this super fancy little door. It goes bump. It's like a little arch. You can see through the bottom, so it's like nice and modern, but you can't get through no matter how hard you try. And it also retracts itself really quickly, nice and simple, super easy redstone circuit. Now the next thing we have is the pulse extender. Now these are super useful if you want to get something longer than just a button press. So let's say maybe you have a one-tick pulse from an observer you want to turn into a button press, or you just have a button press that you want to elongate. Now how this works is it has 2 comparators facing one way, and then on the other side it's facing the other way, and it goes into a line of dust connecting them. Now this is the simplest way right here, just one facing that way, one facing that way, and 2 pieces of redstone dust. And you can see here, this only powers for a second, but you can see the pulse extender keeps it on for longer than the button press. Now, if you want to make that pulse longer, you can. There's step 1 and step 2. Now, you can combine these or you can do them separately. One of the ways is just add more comparators. So as you can see here, instead of just 2, we have 6. Now this makes the pulse significantly longer, as you can see. And so yeah, that works pretty well. So this versus this. And you can see it goes for a while. And the other way to extend the pulse is to put a block in front of one of the comparators, not both, otherwise it will never turn off, and I'll explain that in a second. So just one, so you can put it on either, you can put it on this one, or you can put it on that one as I have there. This, even though it's only 2 comparators, is much longer than this. Now the reason why is how these comparators work to make a pulse extender. Now what happens here is a signal strength of 15 goes into this redstone. This comparator detects that's 15, sees that, gives a 1 redstone tick delay, and then gives a 15 here, and then 14. 1 redstone tick later, 14, 13. 1 redstone tick later, 13, 12. So what these comparators are basically doing is they're acting as a buffer between a slowly dying little redstone circle. Weird way to put it. And now how this one works is instead of going like this, how it goes 15, 15, 14. So it goes down every single time. So it goes down here, goes down here, goes down here, goes down here. Now what this does is it goes 15, 15, 15, 15, 14. So it takes an entire rotation for the redstone pulse to go down. So why would you want to use this? You know those doors that you make with the buttons? Probably stone buttons, because you don't want to use a wood one because it might not go with your base. But you just press the button, you try and run through and it squishes you halfway through, and maybe you get pooped out to the other side, maybe take some damage and then go through, or maybe just like glitch to the floor somehow. Now this is a way to mitigate all that. So we have a button going into a pulse extender. This one right here is the same as right here. So that takes this button press, which is pretty short as you can see, and turns it into a much longer one, and that will open the door. So you can see here the door stays open a pretty good amount of time, but if you just have this button here, it would only stay open for a second. Now it stays open about 3 seconds. And the nice thing about these is you can power the pulse extenders from either side, so that's actually double-sided right here. So you can see we can go through either side, and it'll work just fine. Now the final one for today's video is going to be the observer clock. Now these are super simple, yet can be super complex and super useful. Now that's why I've saved it for the end. It is a little bit complicated of how to power them and how they work, so let's break it down. This one right here, it looks a little different than the others. It's because this is toggleable. What I mean by that is you can turn it off and on. Those ones, they just stay on. This one, you can turn on and off. But how does an observer clock even work in the first place? Well, if you have an observer, it is always looking at the block in front of it and seeing if it changes. If it does change, it gives a redstone pulse, as you can see here. Now, the observer, if you put it facing another observer, you can see it spamming outputs. But the reason why is that this observer watched this observer, watch this observer, watch this observer, and it keeps going back and forth, and you get this everlasting, pretty quick pulse. Now, as you said here, you can put the 2 observers together to activate this. So if you see, if I flip the switch, it starts going, but if I flick it again, it stops. Now, you can expand these more than just the 2 repeaters to make a slower pulse. As you can see, we have 4 here. So you can see it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 versus like bup, 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 bup. And you can also make them much bigger. We have here 10, and this represents 1 second. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and you get the idea. It's just all the observers are just watching each other in a big long loop. So when this one updates, then this one, then this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and it goes in a big circle, which is pretty cool. Now this is super useful if you want to build something like an auto dispenser or an auto dropper. Let's say you just want to step on this pressure plate, it powers the piston, activates this observer clock, which we said this one is toggleable, and then it powers something like a dropper which shoots out golden carrots. So let's say you're running low on golden carrots, you have to come over here, stand on this, gives you all the golden carrots your heart could ever desire. And then if you don't want, say, yeah, I don't want to stack, this is good, you can step off of the pressure plate and it stops giving you them. This is just the first 4 out of 12. So if you want to see the other 12, stay tuned, make sure to like and subscribe, and get ready for these in the following months.